I'm Danny Brown, and you're listening to Artifacts, a storytelling podcast about technology, internet culture, media, and the feelings we still attach to them. Because sometimes the objects fade, but the feeling doesn't. There was a time when recording a video felt like an event. You'd get out the camcorder, someone would immediately tell everyone to smile, and the person holding the camera would stand there, usually for far too long, while everyone else tried to work out what they were supposed to do. Then, eventually, the camera would go away and everyone would get back to whatever they were doing. For a long time, that's what home video meant. Christmas mornings, birthdays, family holidays, school concerts, weddings, the things we thought we'd want to remember. But something changed when video became easier to record. The cameras got smaller, the storage got better, and eventually you didn't need to think quite so hard about whether something was important enough to film. Suddenly, we weren't just recording the big moments, we were recording the ordinary ones too. Someone making dinner, a child playing in the garden, a dog doing something silly, a conversation that nobody thought would matter, a summer afternoon that seemed completely unremarkable at the time. And perhaps that's one of the strangest things technology gave us. The ability to keep things we didn't know we'd want to remember. There's something very different about an old home video compared with an old photograph. A photograph gives you a moment. A video gives you movement. A voice, background noise, someone walking through the room, a door opening, or the sound of people talking who may not be around anymore. And that can be the thing that gets you. You hear someone's voice. Not the voice you remember, but their actual voice. The way they laughed, the little things they used to say, the way they used to call your name. Suddenly, something that happened 20 years ago doesn't feel quite so far away. But home video wasn't always like that. For a long time, recording video was a bit of a production. The camcorder was big, the batteries didn't last forever, the tapes cost money, a lot of money, and somebody had to make the decision to actually get the camera out. So you tended to record things that felt important. You were documenting an occasion. You were making a record of something worth keeping. And I think that's why some of these old family videos feel so deliberate. The camera was there because something was happening. And then, digital video started changing that. Digital cameras and smaller camcorders made recording much easier. There was no tape to worry about in quite the same way, and you could see what you'd captured almost immediately. And eventually, there was less reason to think too hard about whether something was worth recording. You just pressed a button. And that changed what we recorded. The camera started appearing in the moments between the moments. The things that wouldn't necessarily have seemed important enough to document before. A child saying something funny, a friend messing around, someone cooking, a family member telling a story. The sort of thing that would normally disappear as soon as it happened. Except, now it didn't have to. It could sit on a memory card, a mini DV tape, a hard drive, or, eventually, on a cloud account. And years later, you could still find it. And that's where something interesting happened. Because we weren't necessarily trying to create memories, we were just keeping pieces of everyday life. And we had no idea which pieces we'd eventually wish we still had. And I think that's what makes old home videos so powerful. The person holding the camera probably wasn't thinking about 20 years from now. They weren't deliberately creating an emotional time capsule. They were just recording what was happening. And that's exactly why the footage feels so honest. Nobody knew which moments would become important. The camera just happened to be there. When you watch that footage years later, you don't really care about the thing being recorded. You care about everything around it. The room, the furniture, the clothes. The sound of the television in the background, the way someone looked before you'd even realised you'd missed seeing them. It's ordinary details that nobody thought to preserve because they were simply part of everyday life. Then home video became even easier. The cameras got smaller, the storage got larger, and eventually the phone became the camera. Now almost everyone could record almost anything. The barrier had disappeared. You didn't have to decide whether something was important enough to film, you just filmed it. And we started sharing these moments too. Email, personal websites, early social networks, messaging, platforms built almost entirely around photos and video. The home video stopped being something that lived in a cupboard and became something that could travel. A clip could be recorded in the morning and watched by someone on the other side of the world that afternoon. That was a pretty big change. But something else happened along the way. We stopped thinking about videos as things we would keep and started thinking about them as things we would share. And there's a difference. Today, most of us probably have more video of our lives than any generation before us. Thousands of photographs, hundreds of videos, entire years of our lives sitting on phones, hard drives, and cloud servers. And yet, I wonder how much of that we'll actually go back and watch. Because recording something and remembering something aren't quite the same thing. A video can preserve a moment perfectly, but it can't tell you what that moment meant. That's something only memory does. And perhaps that's why these old home videos still feel different. They were often imperfect. The camera shook. Someone walked in front of the lens. The audio was terrible. The footage might be overexposed. But when you find one years later, none of that matters. Because you're not really watching a video. You're watching a piece of your life. A room that doesn't exist anymore. A person who's changed. A voice you haven't heard in years. A version of yourself you'd almost forgotten. And maybe that's the real artifact. Not the tape, not the camera, not even the video itself. It's the ordinary moment that nobody knew would become important. And there's something comforting about that. Because we can't possibly know which moments are going to matter to us years from now. At the time, they're just Tuesday afternoon. Just a family dinner. Just someone laughing in the kitchen. Just a child saying something ridiculous. But those are the moments we end up wishing we could have back. And that's what technology gave us when it made recording everyday life so easy. Not perfect memories, but fragments. Little pieces of ordinary life that managed to survive. And that's why an old home video can feel so much more important than the technology that created it. The camera was only ever there to record what was happening. The real artifact is the life that happened in front of it. I'm Danny Brown, and this is Artifacts. Thanks for spending some time with Artifacts. If this episode reminded you of a memory, a feeling, or a piece of the internet you thought had disappeared, you can find more episodes wherever you get your podcasts. And if you'd like to help preserve the archive, visit the website for ways to support the show. Until next time, take care of the things that matter to you, even the small ones.
Okay, last meeting wrapped. It's too late to cook. Should I order poke or a burger?
At war with myself, feeling choosy. Burger or tuna, what a doozy. If only I could have one of every bite. Why can't we have food without the fight?
With Wonder, you can combine 20 restaurants in one delivery, so you never have to choose. Download the app today. Wonder, food without the fight.